With the advent of the Nintendo Switch and the hype around the Steam Deck, handheld consoles are starting to make a comeback. After all, it started with the devices such as the Game Boy, Nintendo DS, and the PSP. You'd be fascinated to know that today's handheld can carry specs that even rival most gaming laptops. So today, we will be looking at some of the handheld devices you can buy in 2023. Note that this list doesn't include any smartphones, tablets, and accessories that try to make it a handheld. So let's get into it, shall we? Kicking it right off with what basically started the revival of gaming handhelds, the Nintendo Switch. It has been out since 2017 and has really skyrocketed in popularity since 2020 due to the pandemic and lockdowns. Just know that if you are new to the Switch, you will be surprised by all the controllers and accessories you get with it. The downside of the Switch, you are limited to obviously Nintendo games, and on top of that, you will be surprised to find out how they can cost a pretty penny. Currently, you can get 3 different types of Switches: the original Switch, the Switch Lite, and the Switch OLED. The most affordable of the bunch is the Switch Lite, coming in at just 9,750 pesos. You do only get to experience it in handheld mode and with a rather small 5.5-inch touchscreen display. This would be the best option if you find yourself gaming on the go a lot. Then you got the original Switch, which is actually in its second version by now. It currently retails at 13,995 pesos, and you get a 6.2-inch LCD touchscreen panel and a 32 gigs of storage while having the choice of disconnect the Joy-Cons and controllers, play around on tabletop, or attach it to the dock and play on the TV. Then lastly, there's the Nintendo Switch OLED, which retails for 16,750 pesos. And for that, you get some pretty noticeable upgrades such as double the storage at 64 gig, a better kickstand, and especially now a larger 7-inch OLED touchscreen panel. Which one to get, you may ask? That would depend on your needs. But if you want to get the best experience on handheld or tabletop mode, get the OLED. But if you find yourself usually plugging it on the dock, then the regular Switch is perfectly good as well. And if you travel or move around a lot, or maybe you want to get a Switch for your kid, then the Lite remains a great option. Then we got the one that's been getting all the hype recently, and that is the Steam Deck. The reason behind all the hype is obviously this made it now widely available and mainstream to play your favorite PC games on the go. Inside, Valve partnered with AMD to create the Steam Deck's custom APU designed for handheld gaming with a Zen 2 CPU and RDNA 2 GPU that others say gives a surprisingly decent gaming experience. The display itself is a 7-inch 1280 by 800 LCD touchscreen panel that has a 60Hz refresh rate, which most people pick apart, but at this size, you don't really have anything to complain about. There's also a full range of gamepad controls such as 4 assignable grip buttons and even 2 square trackpads with haptic feedback. The Steam Deck comes with 16 gigs of LPDDR5 RAM and different storage configurations. One with 64 gigs of storage for 24,895 pesos, 256 gigs of storage for 30,895 pesos, and 512 gigs of storage for 40,850 pesos. Do note that the basic 64 gig model is eMMC storage, which is a little slower than the NVMe drivers found on the higher models. They also feature a microSD card slot for more storage and a 40Wh battery that is made to give gameplay between 2 to 8 hours. Alternatively, you can also go for GPD's latest gaming handheld, the GPD Win 4, for being such a tiny handheld console. It carries specs that rivals even the highest-end gaming laptops. You get an AMD Ryzen 7 6800U processor, an AMD Radeon 68M GPU that's based on AMD's latest Zen 3 architecture. It even packs up to 32 gigs of RAM and up to 2 terabytes of SSD storage. GPD also claims it to be able to connect to an external GPU for more power. You also get a 6-inch 1080p touchscreen and 60Hz refresh rate, a microSD card slot, Wi-Fi 6, and all while running Windows 11 Home. It also has its own dock if you want a full-fledged Windows PC running from it. But it's got another trick up its sleeve. Its design somewhat resembles a large PSP. The display is actually movable to reveal a physical keyboard underneath. It's currently not available in stores, but it is now open for pre-order with a price ranging between 45,995 pesos all the way to 65,995 pesos. Another handheld console from GPD, but it's more so a mini gaming laptop than a handheld console that we're familiar with. The design itself seems to lean more towards those netbooks of the past with a tiny decent 10.1-inch touchscreen display and a 16:10 aspect ratio to give it a more room and resolution of 2560 by 1600. Underneath that, it also runs the AMD Ryzen 7 6800U processor and Radeon 680M graphics while having used before, which means it could technically also run on external graphic cards for more power. It also has up to 32 gigs of memory and 1 terabyte of SSD storage. And unlike other handhelds, you can upgrade its storage with either a micro SD card, and even a full-on 2330 internal SSD. But what makes it special is that above its keyboard, you'll find controllers that you'd normally find on a gaming handheld and even a small trackpad up top. So if you find yourself doing business meetings and spreadsheets at 3 p.m., then gaming on the go by 6 p.m., the GPD Win Max 2 seems like a fun and unique option. You can get it for 59,995 pesos for the 16 gigs of RAM plus 1 terabyte option, or 64,995 pesos to bump that up to 32 gigs of RAM. Then there's the OneX Player 2 that's somewhat like the birth child of the Nintendo Switch, Steam Deck, and GPD devices. Since it runs on Windows 11, which allows it to run PC games, it also has a detachable controller like the Switch. That means you can play it handheld on TV, on a tabletop with controller, or even use it as a little tablet or laptop with its optional keyboard. Like the GPD devices though, it packs in the AMD Ryzen 7 6800U, up to 32 gigs of RAM and up to 2 terabytes of storage, and a USB 4 port for external GPUs. It also has a large 8.4-inch IPS display with a resolution of 2560 by 1600. What's more is that it comes with a larger 65.5 watt-hour battery. All its features and power does come at a cost, since its price starts at 59,995 pesos and can go all the way up to 74,995 pesos, and it's now available for pre-order. If that's too big for you, then there's the OneX Player Mini Pro, which is just a OneX Player 2 shrunken down into a body that weighs just 599 grams. It doesn't have the detachable controllers like its bigger brother, but it still has the same processor, Ryzen 7 6800U processor, and up to 16 gigs of RAM and up to 1 terabyte of storage. Despite being small, it has a pretty substantial 7-inch full HD display and also 48-hour watt battery. What's great about that is that it has a USB 4.0 that means you can hook up external docks, dongle, and GPUs. It still does cost a pretty penny, since the top-end 16 gigs of RAM plus 1 terabyte model runs 57,995 pesos. But the fact that you can get a decent PC gaming experience on such a small device, that is really impressive. Next, we got the Logitech GCloud, which is a handheld console designed exclusively for cloud gaming. That means you will be using Xbox Game Pass, Nvidia GeForce Now, and even Steam Link for games. They can also run Android games, which sounds pretty cool. It doesn't pack the most powerful Snapdragon 720 processor and only has 64 gigs of storage. It does carry a pretty large 7-inch Full HD IPS display despite having such a small body. Cloud gaming on the Logitech GCloud also means that this will have a longer battery life, with Logitech claiming it over 12 hours of use, and with users reporting to get a pretty substantial battery life out of it. It also means that it won't run as hot compared to handheld consoles that run their game locally. And at a price tag of 19,995 pesos, it definitely isn't for everyone, but if it suits your mobile gaming needs, by all means, this device is for you. Next comes from a OneRam that's been catching steam in handheld gaming space, and that is Ionio with their flagship Ionio 2. Like the GPDs and OneX players, the Ionio 2 packs the Ryzen 7 6800U and Radeon 680M graphics, up to 32 gigs of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage. What's different here is its display. as it packs in a significantly more compact with 7-inch touch display with a resolution of 920 by 1200. But what's truly great is that it's both color accurate and can reach a peak brightness of 500 nits. This makes playing games on the Ionio 2 a treat since you can always drop to say 1120p and still get a good crisp gaming experience while boosting frame rate. The Ionio 2 also just feels so portable when taking it around, and considering that Ionio has built it very well, making it feel premium and sturdy, it really adds up to the whole user experience. One other thing to note that is its controllers are not detachable unlike the Nintendo Switch or the OneX Player 2. It still does have USB 4 for external graphic cards, so that's great, I guess. What sets Ionio apart as well is their IS space, that is their dedicated game launcher, organizer, and system configuration space. But its portability and premium design does come at a pretty steep price of 64,995 pesos for the 16 gigs of RAM and 1TB configuration, and 79,995 pesos for the 32 gigs of RAM plus 2TB model. But if that sounds a little too pricey for you, then the Ionio also offers the Ionio Air, coming in at only 35,995 pesos. It packs in a pretty decent specs and offers a pretty good value for those looking to play PC games on the go. It's carrying the Ryzen 5 5560U processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and 512 of SSD storage, which isn't as impressive as the other handhelds, but considering that it only weighs 410 grams, it's hard to find a better handheld this light. But you will be able to reach 40, 50, to even 60 frames per second on titles that are that most demanding. The display is a 5.5-inch AMOLED touchscreen, which means that you will get crisp, colorful display with true blacks. If you want to step up a little bit, there's the Ionio Air Pro, which shares the same design but packs in a larger battery and a slightly thicker design for improved cooling. And it's only 2,000 pesos more. So that wraps up this list of handheld devices you can get this 2023 in the Philippines. Which one of these are your favorite and why? Do let us know in the comment section below. And if you find this video helpful, be sure to drop a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, and visit Ugitech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. This has been Arel, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.